With Chicago happening this weekend, what are the odds that Mufasa goes back to back in the United States Lorcana challenges? Well, today we're going to cover GreyFasa. What's going on, guys, and welcome back to the channel. So we did start our next giveaway, the one for June. It is an Enchanted or Tinkerbell. That's a Patreon giveaway, link down below. Also, I started to talk about we're going to do a case giveaway at 4,000 subscribers, whether it is set 5 or set 6. Whatever set is the next one coming out. Once we hit that 4,000 subscriber mark, we are going to do a case giveaway. That there will be no stipulations other than commenting on a specific video and being subscribed. So that's a free one for anyone. Again, so we'll hit that goal hopefully relatively soon, hopefully by set 5. But yeah, so some guys at Locals had brought this up, shout out Dave, and said, hey, get a hold of this guy, get this list. He didn't have luck doing it, I didn't have luck doing it, and I was just intrigued by the idea of it. So we started messing around with GreyFasa. We got a few replays to go over, and then the deck list, and then we will show and kind of just talk about everything. So essentially, we're playing Mufasa, which means you're playing heavy top end and other cards that we'll kind of talk about. There's some choices that some people might not agree with, and turns out that the biggest pop star in the world, Taylor Swift, plays Lorcana, so that's pretty sweet. Although we do beat her here. She got us game 2, so we went 1-1 versus her. Couldn't get a third game. But we open up Aladdin, which is going to be good in this matchup, obviously, just with your getting him down, especially going first, turn 3. Like, we're not even going to prioritize Shift Robin Hood, even though we have it. We're going to keep him, but we're going to go Aladdin turn 3, just to get it set up to where we can take out, like, the Fishbone Quill right after they use it just the one time. Really debating on Whole New World. I like it in the list. We have the Chernabog in there. We got Cinderella in there. She's just an incredible late game threat, and also the questing for 3 is pretty good. Doc ended up coming out. We do take Doc out, and I'll talk about that when we get to the deck list. Debated pretty hard here on Whole New World, but it's like by turn 4 it's not as impactful. We play Whole New World as a 2-of, by the way. We're not playing 4 because, you know, Mufasa decks you want to load up on your characters. So we ink Robin Hood, play Robin Hood, Maui goes down. We have turn 2 with Jafar. I was like, Simba's actually crazy too, by the way. So we got turn 2 with Jafar. Then we can go turn 3 with Aladdin and kind of just go aggro-esque route. I say esque because we're not, like, we don't have multi-questers that we're putting down. I mean, Doc would be, but again, we want to get Aladdin down so we can kind of start to curb and cut off that draw power and the draw engine of their deck. So far going pretty good for us. We see Sisu go away. Fishbone does come down. He's going to go ahead and use it. So essentially here now we're going to quest with Aladdin, get rid of the Fishbone, obviously, because it's the one that generates advantage for him. Expecting a Hiram to come down, which will pop a Popsicle. Aladdin can then quest, get rid of the other Popsicle. So again, we're putting them on, you have to have items in your hand to keep your draw going. We do also have Robin Hood plus Jafar, which is enough to take out that Hiram. No surprise whatsoever, Hiram does come down, hits that Popsicle. Again, getting his draws, but we kind of cut off the ramp, and we can slow the draw down too. So that's just 2 really important things to do with this deck. We have double Tinkerbell now in hand, which sometimes that can be really, really good in this deck, and we'll talk about that a bit later. But we get up to 11 really quickly, and I'm like, at this point, I think, you know, with where his ramp is, I just want to really put him on, you have to have it, and stop me. Like, I wanted to go just full aggro at this point. Because no matter what, like, we weren't getting hit with a Be Prepared here, so I'm like, we could go to 15 or we go to 17. The Quill does come down, gets the ramp there, and we draw into Whole New World. So now the big debate: do you Whole New World? I think you do. I think I misplay this out slightly, or no, not this turn. We don't. I was like, how? Or no, I do misplay this one out because we hard cast it, which that's not the misplay. We should have went Jafar into Hiram, Robin Hood into Hiram, quest with Rapunzel. We'd only be at 16. Double Medusa, double Be Prepared. That felt so good. That really, really felt clean. But so essentially we'd be at 16 and Hiram would be off the board. So now if he were to come back with an item, he can't just quest with the Hiram, get the free draw too. We put him on. You have 8, you have what's in your hand, you have to just play out your hand where you're at. Sisu doesn't beat us. Ice Block plus Ink plus Sisu does pretty darn good. But it would still leave us on Jafar plus Aladdin. Doesn't hit what he needs. But yeah, like I said, we could have and should have went Jafar into that Hiram and then the Robin Hood into the Hiram, especially because Hiram would only do the 1. So both obviously the Robin Hood's going to survive, but Jafar would also survive. Madame Medusa come down here, get rid of the Robin Hood, and then our opponent does admit defeat. So we do have another one, different player. Like I said, we did go against that same player again, and it was a little back and forth, but not really anything to show you guys. So that's why that replay didn't make its way into here. So going second this time, we have Cinderella. She actually was a 2 of just for the shift, but she ended up not making the final cut, which we'll, again, talk about that later. Robin Hood, Mufasa, Gaston is just insane. Captain Hook, Doc, and then Smash. So obviously we're playing Smash and the whole new world. I just think hitting like the Ursula, hitting possibly, I mean, Ariel's not really a threat at this point in this meta. Keeping the 2 5s, by the way. And I just kind of was curious how this would go. I'm not huge on Smash in this matchup, but like I said, it's really there for the Emerald. Hitting that Ursula, hitting the Diablo. You could say Baboom, but again, Baboom doesn't clear out that Ursula, and sometimes when they double sing, let the Storm Rage on, or Sudden Chill, it just really, really hurts. So once again, we have our 1, 2, 3 with Robin Hood, Jafar, Aladdin, and then we can come back with another Aladdin. We're on the draw though this time, so they're going to get a little more advantage out of those items, but it does feel really good having that Aladdin. They're losing their hand pretty quickly too, so that actually makes me feel pretty good. We're able to get up again. 3 is not huge, but anything you can just start to put away on this deck is always really nice. Hear him come down, hit the popsicle. That way he can at least ink with the quill, ramp a little bit more. Aladdin is going to take it out, obviously. 3, not a whole big hand though either. So if he doesn't have an item, we're in a really good spot. Like Aladdin is so good this format. Debating where we're at here. I'm like, okay, let's ink her, play the Robin Hood, because now at least we have like the whole Robin Hood play line again if we need to. We're at 7-0. I mean, they do have 7 ink. As soon as I saw the Brawl get inked there too, I was like, oh, that's not that great. I mean, it doesn't really hit anything on the board, but Brawl's just a really good card. I guess not versus this deck, but Brawl's a pretty good card. Then Be Prepared comes down. Not too surprising there. Once you see the Hiram quest just like that, it's more than likely that the Be Prepared was coming down. So here, just kind of like insurance policy, we play around the Sisu, which... sorry. I guess Ice Block plus Sisu we don't necessarily play around. Big Sisu does come out, takes out Robin Hood with his characters, which oddly enough, I mean, we see his hand here shortly, so we know what he had. Brawl goes away because again, it's just not going to do anything, and little Sisu comes down. So I get that he didn't have anything in his hand. It felt really good for me because I'm like, okay, so we can just take out your big Sisu, put you on the little Sisu. We have more cards in hand. We're pretty much at our curve. Maui's a pretty good top deck there. However, so is our Simba. But I'm really liking where I'm at. So essentially, we're putting him on Maui to get rid of my my Mufasa. But instead, he draws the Maleficent and hits the Mufasa that way, which does allow Smee to come down. It puts 3 damage on the Maui. Can get rid of the popsicle to heal the Maui then. So we got to figure something out to swing the tempo back in our favor. We can go ahead, use Gaston, and then I'm like, how do we want to do this? We have 2 really, really good cards for this scenario though. We put the Simba down, we put the damage on the Maui, so now if Maui hits Gaston, we're actually sitting in a pretty good spot. Like, he loses the Maui, Simba trades with Maleficent, actually evenly, so that's something to really consider. The 5-7 is, I mean, you know, it sucks that you lose it when it's 7 strength or 7 willpower, but the 5 strength, really important. We play the Tinkerbell, then Simba can go ahead take out Sisu, which also allows us to put 2 damage on Maui, taking out the Maui. So again, he can Maleficent into Simba, but then he loses Maleficent. He can't Medusa into Simba because he'll just lose Medusa. So we gain a lot of advantage that way. We see the Grammatala come down. Then our opponent quests. And we draw into a dock. We can ink the dock, play Cinderella potentially here. I'm like, how do we want to play this out? We can take out the Maleficent with the Tinkerbell, put 2 damage on the Tala, and then Simba take out the Medusa, put 2 damage on the Tala, which takes out the Tala. And then we can come down with Cinderella and kind of put him on, do you have Be Prepared? Because Lady Tremaine really isn't played. Maleficent Dragon would be very strong. So it's Maleficent or Be Prepared essentially are his 2 outs at this point. We do see Tamatoa come down, which it's a good card, but in this scenario it's just not going to help. We go to 16, and I do put the Smee down because we need to threaten lethal if we lose the Simba. So we can't just not do it. As soon as Maui comes down, though, we know we win because Maui cannot take out the I shouldn't say Maui. Maui or Tamatoa cannot take out the Cinderella on their own. They need 2 characters to do it because the resist 2 is just so good. And he also has to take out the Simba in the process because Simba plus Smee is 4 lore. So now we get to go second against Green Steel. We have double Julieta, Doc, Gaston, Tinkerbell, Rapunzel, and Captain Hook. So we do actually have a turn 1 play. That's pretty good. We have Gaston. That's our ideal turn 3. Like, just tutoring out other cards at 2 ink less is really strong. I decided to keep the Doc just to really try to ramp early. Or not ramp, tutor out, whatever we call that. Play characters cheaper. We hit Ursula. Ursula's actually pretty good too. Like, getting her down as a multi-quester who can just keep looking at your hand and ripping cards out of your hand, versus like item decks, especially like with Gaston's a turn 3, so you don't get her down sooner. But we did add a card where you could potentially get her down turn 3. If you do that versus like the Ruby Sapphire deck, you can actually sit in a pretty good spot. I don't like how my opponent played this game out, personally. I get that if you just quest with your merfolks, you just essentially say, I'm getting 2 lore, you're losing a card. But especially with the color combination I'm on, I mean, obviously he doesn't know I'm not playing Steel Song. I don't like the sit back, laid back approach that my opponent takes. And even here, like, so they go Robin Hood, and I was like, okay, they're going to go up to 6, dare me to take out the 2 merfolks. I'm like, tempting. It's tempting. But we're going to put down the Gaston. I was like, and then we're going to go ahead and take out the Robin Hood, which he kind of pretty much put me on, I dare you to do it. And why not quest with the Smee and make him take out my Smee? Because then he'd get that 2 lore, and just in case I lose the tempo, I didn't want him to be 2 lore closer. I felt like if we just hold the tempo, we're going to be in a really good spot. So now here we can Gaston and tutor out that Tinkerbell on turn 4, which is just really good. Clears out both merfolks. We get to keep all of our cards. Plays Ursula. We only play 2 songs. We draw into another Tinkerbell, so we're going to do it again, get rid of the Prince John. Then he's sitting on that Ursula, which again isn't going to do a whole lot. I feel like at this point Smash is fine to get rid of. A Diablo coming down would be unfortunate. Bruno comes down, he hits Ursula, not the Gaston, and then actually admits defeat. We have one more replay, and lo and behold, once again, we're going second. So this time we're against Ruby Amethyst. We have double Rapunzel, Cinderella, Tinkerbell, Smee, Gaston, and Mufasa. I like my hand. Going second here, how do we want to play it? I was like, Gaston, turn 4, Tinkerbell feels really good. Keep Smee for an early turn. we dig. I was like, if we miss turn 1 in this matchup, I'm not super worried about it. So we do miss our turn 1, and we're on the draw, so we get the extra card. Doesn't matter. We hit a dock, so then we just pass turn. He's going to quest with the Chernobog and go ahead and get that extra draw, which sometimes it's kind of nice to leave Chernobog out there for a turn or two, especially if your opponent misses the 1-drop, just so you can get another lore out of it, and then especially if you're coming back with like an Olaf. So we ink the Jafar, come back with the Smee. We do have another Jafar in hand, but again, now we can come back with Gaston on turn 3, which means turn 4 Tinkerbell, turn 5 Tinkerbell. Ruby Amethyst obviously has Brawl, and again, I played these games, so I know how it comes out. But like Brawl on Gaston, obviously really good. Probably the not only, but definitely the best Brawl target in my deck. Can hit Rapunzel, but once she's on the board, she really just quests for 2. Brawl does come down again. Obviously, I played the game. I knew what happens. We put the Smee down though, get the 2 lore here, and I'm pretty much like, okay, so you can go ahead go ahead, ink, play a card, and trade your Fox to my Smee. I was okay with that, just knowing what I have in hand. We can ink the Jafar here, play the Gaston back. Like having that second Gaston with the Tinkerbells in hand just allowed me to be a little greedy there, because I wanted that Fox off the board, and Smee just does a really good job of that. So they quest with the Olaf, play the Snake, and this time they do ink the Olaf. Sisu comes down, so it's like, okay, something to look out for. Big Sisu. We can go ahead, come down with Tinkerbell, ink the Mufasa, because I don't want his Sisu to take out the Gaston, especially because that 4 willpower means it would survive. So now neither character can take out Gaston. They can both quest or both challenge Gaston to take it out, but that's feels bad for him. It's very inefficient, and he doesn't know, but I have Tinkerbell in hand, which would finish off the other Sisu. So instead, my opponent just decides to quest, which works out really good for us, because guess what? Tinkerbell's coming back down again. And in addition to that, then we can Tinkerbell into Snake or Sisu. Either way, we're going to take 3 damage. Put the 2 damage on the Dolores, which obviously from the other Tinkerbell being the 1 damage means that it is also going to be gone. So we deal with our opponent's board, because at this point too, Captain Hook is going to serve his purpose perfectly and be a 1-drop who takes out a much stronger character. So we trade board, we got double Tinkerbell, we got Gaston, we are walking right into Be Prepared, and I understand that, but it's out of his hand. We have Gaston, we have Mufasa, and I misplay horribly right here. I had the Gaston up there, I was ready to play it. I'm like, let's do it. Or you could go ahead and play the Mufasa, because then if he comes back with Lady or Madame Medusa or anything, we're sitting good. And I completely forgot that Bee King Undisputed is such a good card and played so much. And again, there we could have went with Gaston first, because they have 2 strength each. He wouldn't get the 3 lore, but that Chernobog misplay hurt so badly. Like, yeah, it really did. There's not a whole lot else to say about it. The Fox playline too kind of dictates what we have to do, so we have to come back with Tinkerbell, not Gaston, because now we at least, again, preventing that 3, kind of daring him like, okay, we're gonna quest then, and you can go ahead and take me out with your Fox, lose your Fox, see what I hit off the deck, and go from there. And then here I'm like, okay, we really need to just get aggro at this point and go for it. So we go Tinkerbell to 8. Arguably should have put Julietta down 2, because if he's going to take something out, he's going to completely take it out. Queen's Castle comes down. If we put Julietta down, I do think it changes his playing a little bit, but maybe not a ton. So essentially now you can just move everything to the castle and potentially pass turn, but then you know I'm going to take out the castle anyway. So taking out the Tinkerbell makes sense. Move the Sisu to the castle. Again, had we put the Julietta down, the way it works out, it wouldn't have mattered because that would still only be 6. So we go Gaston, 2 on the castle, quest the Mufasa because we can take the castle out next turn. However, maybe we should have put the Mufasa on the castle too, just to leave it with 2 strength. So moving forward, you know, we're just in a better spot. We see a rabbit come down into a Sisu. Sisu come down, move Sisu to the castle. Again, we know we can get rid of the castle. Our opponent has no hand at this point either. Can Gaston, so we can put both characters down. Just kind of like going through options, right? So Mufasa, and then Gaston can exert, so we can play a character cheaper, play the Julieta, play the Ursula, just trying to again hurry up and win a little bit faster. That Chernobog play just really showing how important every interaction is. And right here between Chernobog and then rabbit into 1-drop, those 2 things dictate this game, and we're gonna lose. But I mean, at this point you can pretty much assume that just because where we're at, we can take out his board actually, well, his exerted board, but then he's going to come right back and take out one of our characters, so we can't win. Putting the Robin Hood down just so the Sisus only have 1 attack. Mufasa take out the rabbit. Jafar is the only other one who could take out the rabbit on his own, which is very important because 3 + 1 is 4, 2 + 2 is 4, and if we lose the Jafar, we're not, you know, in that point where we can potentially win. Here he could just easily take out some of our characters though. So again, that the Chernobog misplay and then just rabbit into Olaf was just insane. It definitely happens. We see the crab come down. At this point too, it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We can go to 17. Had we properly played it and potentially got that 3, because if we could have got Chernobog to stick for a turn, we would have got the 3, and given what his hand was, he would have stuck a little bit longer, and we would have had more than 3 and done really well there. But I think the deck can absolutely compete. I think the deck is actually pretty good. So what is the deck list? And again, I said we had some changes that we'll talk about just as testing went on. So we have 13 unequal cards. We're pretty high in the 1, 2s, 3s. I guess I shouldn't really say that. The graph is very misleading at 12. We're pretty tapered across the board. You'll never guess what that 1 9+ card is. It is a decently expensive deck. You play 4 Rapunzel in here. Rapunzel is just very expensive. She's a very, very good, very strong card. So we're playing 4 Captain Hook, 4 Robin Hoods as our 1-drops. Hook not only helps with Smee, but also the challenger status is really nice for trading into your opponent's boards while you get into your heavy top end. Obviously, Robin Hood for the shift is just really strong. Jafar not only is a 3/2, he gains evasive on your turn, and I know there's some like 2/3 evasives like the broom, and it's like, oh, that can take out a Diablo and survive. True, but Jafar can take out a Pegasus, and sometimes that's more important. So I prioritize the 3 strength over the 3 willpower. Then you have Smee, and I guess you could argue too though, like the 3 willpower being good, because if they do something like let the Storm Rage on, I can't take out their Diablo then, right? So if they already have the Diablo, it sings let the Storm Rage on, they take out my Jafar, they kind of answer my answer. So that's where like the broom here may be the better call. It's a horse apiece. I went for the 3 strength. They're both 2-drops. One's a 2/3, the other's a 3/2. They both gain evasive during your turn. In those 4 slots, I'd play one of those 2 cards. Mr. Smee, not only is he an aggro, can start to push for lore, he's a 3/3, works with Hook. And again, he's a 3/3. 4 Gaston, 2 Julieta. A lot of time I've found we're not necessarily healing. The deck definitely could use the draw, but just the way it was working out. I'm not saying you shouldn't play 4. I went from 4, we went to 2, and it's just kind of been working the way we've been doing it. We then have 3 Aladdins. Again, items are just really good right now. He's just insane. He's a 3-drop. If you're on the play, you can get ahead of those quills and the items and just really make your opponent's life a lot harder. 4 Rapunzels, not too crazy there. 2 Ursulas. So again, Ursula's just really nice for repeatedly seeing their hand and just starting to rip cards out of their hand, whether it's songs in Emerald Steel or items in red blue, or even blue steel, like hitting songs or items in that deck. Mufasa, that's shouldn't be too much of a surprise. We're playing 4 Mufasa. Again, 4 Robin Hood shouldn't be a big surprise. 3 Cinderellas. Cards is really strong. However, Tinkerbell and Simba with their on-play effects, to me, just kind of paired up with Mufasa better. Like, hitting Cinderella off Mufasa feels really good. Like, it's a 5/5, resist 2, quest for 3. Obviously, that's really strong. However, it does lose to removal, and doesn't really do anything at the moment it's played. But like Mufasa into Tinkerbell or Simba, you're dealing damage across the board. Simba just dealing 2 damage to a chosen character is really nice, especially again, when you challenge and take out a character, being able to deal 2 damage is very strong. And having him come back after something like a Maleficent Dragon feels, again, really strong because he's a 5/7. Maleficent Dragon being a 7/5 means that you can take it out. So we have multiple answers for the Maleficent Dragon. Cinderella and Simba. Unfortunately, they both die in the process, but they do their part of the job and they handle it. Chernabog, on the other hand, takes it out clean. The 9/9, the monster. I really debated playing Goofy here, just as that 10 spot. 'Cause I'm like, he's a 9-drop and he's inkable, and I'm like, and he's a 10/10 and quest for 4. But I mean, the 9/9 10/10 at that point it doesn't matter. He quests for 1 more. And he's inkable. That was kind of the huge thing. So it's like, if you hit him off Mufasa, he quests for 1 more. And if you open it, he's inkable. So either way, it works out. However, Chernabog's effect, and in this deck, he doesn't need to be inkable because he might as well be like a 4 or 5 cost most of the time. Because unless you open this card, it's usually going to cost you much less than 10 to actually play it anyway. So it just kind of works out. 3 Smash. Again, I really think Smash is a strong card. I like it more than Baboom. It takes out Ursula. It takes out, obviously, your Diablo. It takes out Pegasus. It takes out these other types of cards. But the big one is that it takes out the Ursula for why we're playing it. 2 Whole New Worlds. It's kind of a counter to discard. You're into discard, you're trying to build your board, they're trying to get rid of your hand, and you like draw into this, especially if you have a 5 on board and you can sing it. Feels really good, just get your whole hand back and be able to continue playing the game. We did cut, like I said, we cut the 2 Cinderella, because initially I was playing 2 Simba, and this card was just way too good to not play 4 of. So we cut the 2 Cinderella for 2 Simbas, because again, we were playing 2. So we played the 4 Simbas, and then we cut out the 3 Docs, because like turn 3, I mean, you probably just saw the card there. Turn 3, you're probably coming down with like Gaston. If ideal scenario, you come down with Gaston turn 3 all the time. Julieta's potential. Aladdin is matchup dependent. Otherwise, Robin Hood shifting. So like Gaston and Robin Hood, you have 8 turn 3 options with a pseudo depends on your matchup option over here in Aladdin. So we actually went with 4 lanterns. I like pairing up Pluto with Gaston because it's like turn 1 Pluto, turn 2 Gaston. But I liked my 1-drops too much. So I was like, I don't want to cut Hook or Hood. And it's like, well, you just play Pluto in addition to them. Especially because like hitting Pluto off of your Mufasa is better than hitting the lantern off Mufasa. And just like that, hitting a dock off of your Mufasa is obviously better than hitting a lantern off Mufasa. But the way I looked at it is we're playing 51 characters, so odds are you're gonna hit a character. I get that, you know, if you play 55, your odds are obviously going to be better. But that's why we call it roulette. That's why people enjoy playing it. Like we talked again at locals, it's kind of like a gambling high you get. Like, are you going to hit your card? If you're playing 60 characters, there's a lot less. It's like, ooh, do I hit the right card? But I don't know. It's kind of fun. I actually played Mufasa in set 2 in some decks that weren't like dedicated Mufasa decks. Playing like 10 non-character cards. Rarely had issues with it. It was just more or less there as like to be able to play through or be prepared. But yeah, I don't know. I like where it's at. Again, some people are gonna say it's a Mufasa deck. You can't play this many non-character cards, and I disagree. But at the same time, I'm not gonna say that you're straight up wrong, because you're not. You're not wrong. I just think that 51 also works. So I think that it's more or less you're wrong, that we're both right. So I don't know what other people exactly are doing for GreyFasa, but personally I think the deck's actually really good, and I wouldn't be surprised. Okay, I'd be very surprised if it tops Chicago. Not because it's not good enough, because no one's going to play it. If someone plays this deck, I absolutely think they could make a run. I think it would be absolutely hilarious to see another janky Mufasa deck go and take down a challenge. However, that's probably not going to happen. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And until next time, like, share, subscribe, because at 4,000 subscribers, we have a case giveaway for whatever the next set coming out will be. So stay tuned for that. Make sure you come back. Hit that little bell. Take care.